The massive silver ship drifted silently through the darkness of space, its hull gleaming under the distant light of a yellow star. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of the Starweaver, his tall, thin frame casting a shadow across the control panels. His large eyes, adapted for the dim light of his homeworld, studied the blue and green planet that hung before them like a jewel. "Report, Dr. Kes-Ila," Veltar said, his voice carrying the musical quality common to all Zephyrians. His pale skin seemed to glow softly in the bridge's gentle lighting. Dr. Kes-Ila approached, her movements graceful and flowing. Like all of her species, she stood nearly 8 feet tall, with long limbs and delicate features. Her fingers, thin as twigs, danced across her data pad as she prepared her findings. "Captain, we have been observing this species for 3 months now," she began, her voice soft but clear. "They call themselves humans, and they inhabit the third planet from their star. Our initial scans show a primitive but developing civilization." Veltar nodded slowly. The Zephyrian Confederation had discovered many worlds in their expansion across the galaxy, but few held intelligent life. Each new species was carefully studied before first contact was attempted. "Tell me about their physical characteristics," Veltar requested, settling into his command chair. The chair adjusted automatically to support his light frame, a necessity for his people who had evolved on a world with gravity barely 1/3 that of the planet below. Dr. Kes-Ila activated her holographic display. Images of humans appeared in the air between them, showing people walking, working, and going about their daily lives. The footage had been collected from intercepted television broadcasts and satellite observations. "They are significantly shorter than us, averaging only 6 feet in height," Dr. Kes-Ila explained, pointing to the images. "Their limbs are thick and stocky, clearly built for a heavy gravity environment. Notice how slowly they move compared to our people." Veltar watched the humans in the images. To his eyes, they appeared to lumber about like heavy beasts. Their movements seemed clumsy and inefficient. Where Zephyrians could leap gracefully from place to place, humans seemed to plod along the ground with deliberate, heavy steps. "Their technology appears to be several decades behind our own," Dr. Kes-Ila continued. "They have achieved basic spaceflight, but their vessels are crude and limited. Most of their population remains bound to their planet's surface." "What about their military capabilities?" asked Commander Zareth, the ship's tactical officer. His role was to assess any potential threats that new species might pose to the Confederation. Dr. Kes-Ila scrolled through more data. "Quite limited. Commander, their weapons appear to be primarily chemical-based projectiles and explosive devices. They have no energy shields, no faster-than-light weapons, and their military vehicles are slow and heavily armored, suggesting they rely on brute force rather than elegance or speed." The bridge crew exchanged glances. This was typical of heavy world species they had encountered before. The intense gravity of their home planets forced them to develop thick, powerful bodies, but this came at the cost of grace and advanced thinking. They usually focused on crude, direct solutions rather than the sophisticated approaches favored by more advanced civilizations. "Have they detected our presence?" Veltar asked. "No, Captain. We remain well outside their sensor range. Their detection systems are quite primitive. They would need to advance considerably before they could spot our ships at this distance." Veltar stood and walked to the main viewing screen. The planet Earth filled most of the display, its surface showing swirling white clouds, vast blue, oceans, and brown and green continents. It was beautiful, he had to admit, but the thought of trying to walk on its surface made his bones ache. The gravity readings showed it was nearly 3 times stronger than his home world of Zephyr Prime. "Dr. Kes-Ila, what is your recommendation regarding this species?" Veltar asked. The xenobiologist consulted her notes one final time. "Captain, I believe the humans pose no significant threat to the Confederation. They are a young species, still bound by the limitations of their harsh environment. Their thick, heavy bodies suggest they have spent most of their evolutionary energy simply surviving their planet's crushing gravity, leaving little room for advanced mental development." She gestured to more images showing humans at work. "Observe how much effort they must exert for simple tasks. They appear to tire easily and must rest frequently. Their cities are built low to the ground, suggesting they have difficulty with vertical construction due to their world's gravitational pull. Commander Zareth nodded in agreement. Their military presents no challenge to our forces. Our ships could easily outmaneuver their crude vessels, and our energy weapons would make short work of their primitive armor. However, Dr. Kesila added quickly, they do show promise in certain areas. Their technology, while basic, demonstrates creativity. They have achieved powered flight, developed complex communication networks, and show signs of artistic expression. With proper guidance, they could become valuable members of the Confederation. Veltar considered this information carefully. The Zephyrian Confederation had a long history of incorporating developing species into their alliance. Usually, these primitive civilizations were grateful for the advanced technology and protection that membership provided. In exchange, they offered raw materials, labor, and loyalty to the Confederation's goals. What do you propose, Doctor? I suggest we initiate peaceful first contact, Captain. We should present ourselves as benevolent guides, offering to help them advance beyond their current limitations. Given their physical constraints and technological disadvantages, they should readily accept our offer of protection and guidance. The bridge crew murmured in agreement. This was the standard approach for dealing with primitive species. The Confederation would offer advanced technology, medical knowledge, and protection from hostile aliens in exchange for resources and allegiance. Very well, Veltar decided. Prepare a message for transmission to the Confederation Council. Request permission to begin first contact protocols with the human species. Classify them as a potential client species, suitable for integration under our guidance. As the crew busied themselves with preparations, Veltar returned his gaze to the planet below. The humans had no idea that their world had been discovered, that their entire future was about to change. Soon, they would learn that they were not alone in the universe, and that an advanced civilization was ready to lift them up from their primitive existence. It would be, Veltar thought, a great kindness to these struggling creatures. 3 months had passed since the Confederation Council approved first contact with humanity. The USS Liberty hung motionless in Earth's orbit, its gray hull reflecting the blue light of the planet below. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the ship's command center, watching through the main window as construction crews put the finishing touches on Haven Point, the temporary space station built for the historic meeting. Morrison was a man of average height, with broad shoulders and calloused hands from years of naval service. His uniform was pressed and clean, but he moved with the careful efficiency of someone who had spent his life working in cramped spaces. At 45 years old, he had seen humanity's first steps into deep space, and now he would witness their first meeting with alien life. Captain, the Zephyrian ship is approaching, reported Lieutenant Commander Pete Johnson from the communications station. Johnson was younger than Morrison, with sandy brown hair and nervous energy that he tried to hide behind professional calm. Thank you, Pete. Signal Ambassador Carter that we'll be ready for transport in 10 minutes. Ambassador Lisa Carter had arrived on the Liberty 2 days earlier, along with her small diplomatic team. She was a sharp woman in her 50s with gray hair pulled back severely and eyes that missed nothing. Her career in international diplomacy had prepared her for difficult negotiations, but nothing quite like this. Colonel Davis, are you ready? Carter asked as she entered the transport bay. Colonel Ryan Davis was her military advisor, a tall man with dark skin and the quiet confidence of a career soldier. His job was to assess any threats and provide security for the diplomatic mission. Ready as we can be, ma'am, Davis replied. Dr. Sullivan has the scientific equipment loaded and tested. Dr. Amy Sullivan looked up from her instruments. She was a small woman with curly red hair and thick glasses, specializing in gravitational physics. The State Department had insisted on including her after learning about the gravity differences between Earth and the alien homeworld. My readings show their ship uses some kind of artificial gravity system, Dr. Sullivan said, adjusting her equipment. It's quite advanced, actually, much more sophisticated than our current technology. The transport shuttle was cramped by human standards, but it had been designed to accommodate the taller Zephyrian visitors. Carter settled into her seat and reviewed her notes one final time. The first contact protocols were clear, But she knew that reality rarely matched the carefully planned scenarios. Haven Point was a marvel of quick engineering. Built in just 2 months by both human and robotic workers, it provided a neutral meeting space with adjustable gravity and atmosphere for both species. The human sections maintained Earth-normal gravity, while the Zephyrian areas were set to match their homeworld's lighter conditions. As their shuttle docked, Carter could see the Zephyrian vessel through the station windows. It was beautiful, in an alien way, all flowing curves and silver surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. Their technology was clearly far beyond anything humanity had achieved. "Remember," Carter said to her team as they prepared to disembark, "we're here to establish peaceful relations, but we negotiate as equals. Don't let them intimidate us with their advanced technology." The meeting room was located in the station's center, with gravity set to a compromise level between Earth and Zephyr Prime standards. Carter felt slightly light on her feet as she entered, while her team moved carefully to adjust to the different conditions. The Zephyrians were already waiting. Prime Velnus stood nearly 8 feet tall, his pale skin seeming to glow in the soft lighting. His movements were fluid and graceful, like a dancer moving through water. Beside him stood Captain Veltar and Dr. Kessila, both equally tall and elegant. "Welcome, humans," Prime Velnus said, his voice carrying musical tones that human ears found beautiful but somehow condescending. "We are honored to meet with your species for the first time." "The honor is mutual," Carter replied, extending her hand in greeting. The Zephyrian diplomat looked at the offered hand with curiosity, before carefully touching it with his long, thin fingers. "Please be seated." Velnus gestured to chairs that had been specially designed to accommodate both species. "We have much to discuss about your world's future." Carter noticed the phrasing but kept her expression neutral. "Indeed we do. Humanity is excited about the possibilities of interstellar cooperation." Dr. Kessila activated a holographic display, showing star charts and trade routes. "The Confederation encompasses 47 star systems," she explained. "We have brought peace and prosperity to dozens of species across this region of the galaxy." "That's impressive," Colonel Davis said. "What kind of arrangement do you typically have with new member species?" Prime Velnus smiled, showing teeth that were perfectly white and slightly pointed. "We understand that young civilizations often struggle with the challenges of interstellar existence. The Confederation provides protection, advanced technology, and guidance to help developing species reach their full potential." "In exchange for what?" Dr. Sullivan asked, her scientific mind cutting straight to the practical questions. "Resources primarily," Captain Veltar answered. "Rare minerals, agricultural products, and of course loyalty to Confederation policies. It is an arrangement that benefits all parties." Carter leaned forward slightly. "You speak of developing species and young civilizations. How do you view humanity's current status?" The 3 Zephyrians exchanged glances. Prime Velnus spoke carefully. "Your species shows great promise, Ambassador Carter. However, your technological development has been limited by your world's harsh conditions. Your heavy gravity environment has forced you to focus on basic survival rather than advancement. We observe that your people move slowly and tire easily," Dr. Kessila added, her tone genuinely sympathetic. "Your bodies are thick and heavy, adapted for your difficult world but unsuited for the greater universe. With our help, you could overcome these natural limitations." Colonel Davis kept his face expressionless, but Carter could see the slight tightening around his eyes. "What kind of help are you offering?" "Advanced transportation that would free you from your planet's gravitational prison," Velnus replied. "Medical technology to enhance your physical capabilities. Energy weapons to replace your primitive chemical devices. Educational systems to accelerate your intellectual development." "That's very generous," Carter said carefully. "What role would humanity play in this confederation?" "A valuable one," Velnus assured her. "Your people are hardy, if limited. You could provide manual labor for projects that require physical endurance. Your world's resources would contribute to Confederation prosperity. In time, perhaps your species could even serve in support roles for our military forces." The condescension was becoming impossible to ignore. Carter glanced at Davis, who gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. Dr. Sullivan was frowning at her instruments taking readings of the aliens' technology. "Prime Wellness," Carter said. "I appreciate the Confederation's offer, but I believe there may be some misunderstanding about humanity's capabilities and aspirations. We're not looking for a protector or guardian. We're interested in partnership between equals." The Zephyrians looked genuinely puzzled. Captain Veltar tilted his head. "Ambassador, we mean no offense, but your species has barely achieved basic spaceflight. Your technology is decades behind ours. How could such a partnership be equal?" "Perhaps," Dr. Sullivan interjected, "you might benefit from a closer look at human achievements. We'd be happy to host a delegation on Earth to demonstrate our capabilities firsthand." Prime Wellness smiled indulgently. "That would be educational. We accept your invitation, though I suspect it will only confirm what our observations have already shown us. Your people have done well within the constraints of your harsh world, but the greater universe requires different capabilities." Carter stood, signaling the end of the formal session. "Then we'll arrange for your visit to Earth. I think you'll find humanity full of surprises." As the diplomats prepared to leave, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that the Zephyrians viewed humans as barely more than clever animals. Their offer of help came with strings that would reduce humanity to a client state, dependent on alien technology and guidance. But perhaps a visit to Earth would change their perspective. After all, there was a lot about human capability that couldn't be observed from space. The Zephyrian shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere with elegant grace, its silver hull gleaming in the afternoon sun over Edwards Air Force Base in California. Inside the craft, Captain Veltar made final adjustments to his formal robes, while Dr. Casilla reviewed her cultural notes one last time. Cultural attaché Morden sat quietly, his tall frame folded into the shuttle's seat as he watched the alien landscape grow larger below them. "The gravity readings are quite intense," remarked Lieutenant Sektar, the shuttle pilot. His hands moved carefully over the controls, compensating for the unexpected pull of Earth's gravity well. "I can feel the ship responding differently than normal." "It will be temporary," Captain Veltar assured him. "We will complete our cultural assessment quickly and return to the Starweaver. These humans cannot help their limitations, but we must experience their world to properly guide them." The shuttle touched down on the concrete runway with a slight bounce, heavier than expected. Through the viewports, they could see a small group of humans waiting near several ground vehicles. The humans looked even smaller and stockier from this close distance. Their thick bodies clearly adapted for their world's crushing environment. Colonel Ryan Davis stood at attention beside the landing pad, his dark uniform crisp in the desert heat. Next to him, Dr. Amy Sullivan checked her instruments one final time, while Major Kate Thompson, the base's chief medical officer, waited with a small team of medics. Thompson was a sturdy woman with brown hair pulled back in a military bun, her medical bag ready for any emergency. "Remember, these beings evolved in low gravity," Dr. Sullivan said quietly to the welcoming committee. "Their bones and muscles are adapted for a much lighter environment. Earth's gravity will affect them immediately." "How badly?" Colonel Davis asked, watching as the shuttle's door began to open. "Imagine trying to move while carrying 2 extra copies of yourself on your back," Dr. Sullivan replied. "That's roughly what they're experiencing right now." The shuttle door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Veltar appeared in the doorway, his 8-foot frame imposing even when seen from below. He took a confident step forward, expecting to glide down to the ground with his usual grace. Instead, his foot hit the concrete with shocking force. The impact traveled up through his thin leg bones like a lightning bolt. His second step was even worse, as Earth's gravity pulled him down with 3 times the force he was used to. His elegant stride became a stumbling fall. Captain Veltar crashed to his knees on the runway, his hands scraping against the rough concrete as he tried to catch himself. The formal robes that had looked so dignified moments before now tangled around his limbs, making it even harder to move. "Sir!" Dr. Casilla cried out from the shuttle doorway, but her own attempt to help resulted in the same outcome. She stepped out and immediately collapsed, her thin frame unable to support even her own weight in the crushing gravity. Her scientific instruments scattered across the concrete with metallic clatters. Cultural attaché Morden tried to move more carefully, but even his cautious approach failed. He managed 2 steps before his legs buckled, sending him sprawling beside his companions. The 3 Zephyrians lay on the ground, struggling to understand what had happened to their bodies. Colonel Davis stepped forward immediately, his own movement appearing impossibly smooth and controlled to the alien's eyes. What seemed like a simple walk to him looked like a demonstration of incredible strength to beings who could barely lift their heads. "Major Thompson, medical assistance, please," Davis said calmly, though his voice carried easily across the distance. To the Zephyrians, his voice sounded impossibly strong and clear, as if he were speaking through some kind of amplification device. Major Thompson approached with her medical team, each human moving with what appeared to be superhuman grace and power. Thompson knelt beside Captain Veltar, her movement controlled and precise despite the gravity that was crushing the aliens. "Captain, can you hear me?" she asked, her voice gentle but strong. "We're here to help you." Captain Veltar tried to respond, but speaking required more effort than he had expected. His voice came out as a whisper. What is happening to us?" Dr. Sullivan approached, carrying her instruments with ease. "Captain, you're experiencing Earth's gravity for the first time. Your body isn't adapted for this level of gravitational force. We need to get you to a controlled environment immediately." "This cannot be normal," Dr. Casilla gasped from where she lay on the concrete. "How do you humans function in such conditions?" Major Thompson signaled to her team, who brought forward what looked like floating stretchers. The anti-gravity devices were human technology, crude by Zephyrian standards but effective for medical transport. "We don't think about it," Thompson replied as she helped lift Captain Veltar onto the stretcher. "This is just normal for us. We've lived with this gravity our whole lives." As they were loaded onto the medical transports, the Zephyrians began to understand the full scope of their error. Every movement the humans made, every step, every gesture, required tremendous strength just to overcome their world's gravitational pull. What they had interpreted as sluggish, clumsy behavior was actually incredible feats of power and endurance. Colonel Davis walked alongside the medical transport, his stride steady and sure. "We've prepared a facility with adjustable gravity for your comfort," he explained. "You'll be able to function normally while you're here." The transport vehicles moved smoothly across the base, their human drivers navigating with casual skill. Through the windows, the Zephyrians could see other humans going about their daily activities, walking, running, carrying equipment. Each action that had seemed so primitive from space now appeared almost miraculous. "Dr. Sullivan," Captain Veltar managed to say as they entered the medical facility, "How strong are your people?" Dr. Sullivan smiled, though the expression looked different to eyes adapted to Zephyrian features. "We don't usually think of ourselves as strong, Captain. We're just adapted to our environment. But I suppose compared to species from lighter worlds, we would seem quite powerful." They were brought into a large chamber where the gravity could be adjusted through advanced human technology. As the gravitational field was reduced to Zephyrian normal levels, the 3 aliens slowly felt their strength return. They could stand again, move with their usual grace, think clearly without the crushing weight. "This is better," Morden said, stretching his long limbs gratefully. "But I do not understand. How did your species develop such technology while living under such harsh conditions?" "We had to," Dr. Sullivan replied simply. "When your environment is challenging, you either adapt or you don't survive. Humans have been dealing with this gravity for millions of years. It's made us resilient." Major Thompson ran some medical scans on the visitors, her instruments working efficiently despite their human design. "Your bone density is about 1/3 of human normal," she reported. "Your muscle mass is similarly reduced. You're perfectly adapted for your world, but Earth's environment is essentially toxic to your physiology." Captain Veltar sat in a chair, designed for his height, his mind racing with new calculations. Dr. Sullivan, if this is normal for humans, then what we observed from space was humans performing incredible feats of strength every moment of every day. Dr. Sullivan finished. Getting up in the morning, walking to work, climbing stairs, carrying objects, all of it requires enormous physical power by the standards of lighter worlds. Dr. Casilla looked up from her scattered instruments, which Major Thompson had carefully collected. "We have made a significant error in our assessment," she said quietly. "We thought your people were weak and slow. Instead, you are among the strongest beings we have ever encountered." Colonel Davis checked his watch, a simple gesture that required precise muscle control and strength that would be impossible for the Zephyrians in normal gravity. "Would you like to observe some of our standard training exercises?" he asked. "I think you might find them educational." The three Zephyrians exchanged glances. Their understanding of humanity had been completely reversed in the space of a few minutes. What they had come to assess as a primitive species was revealing itself to be something far more impressive and potentially dangerous. "Yes, Captain," Veltar said slowly. "I think we would very much like to see what humans consider normal physical activity." Outside the medical facility, the base continued its daily routine, with humans moving about their tasks with casual ease, completely unaware that every step they took was in demonstration of incredible strength to their alien visitors. The Zephyrians were beginning to realize that they had not discovered a primitive species in need of guidance. They had found something much more remarkable and much more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The next morning brought clear desert skies to Edwards Air Force Base. Inside the medical facility, the three Zephyrian visitors had spent the night in the controlled gravity chamber, slowly coming to terms with what they had experienced. Dr. Casilla sat at a specially designed desk, frantically revising her reports about human capabilities while Captain Veltar paced the room with his usual grace, now that the gravity was set to comfortable levels. "The implications are staggering," Dr. Casilla murmured, her long fingers dancing over her data pad. "Every calculation we made about human military potential must be completely reconsidered." Cultural Attaché Morden watched through the chambers windows as humans went about their morning routines outside. Soldiers jogged past in formation, their feet hitting the ground with impacts that would shatter Zephyrian bones. "Look at them," he said quietly. "They move as if the crushing gravity means nothing." A knock at the chamber door interrupted their discussion. Colonel Davis entered, followed by Dr. Sullivan and a stocky man in military fatigues. The new human was shorter than Davis but built like a solid block, with thick arms and scarred hands. "Good morning," Colonel Davis said. "I'd like you to meet Sergeant Ben Parker. He's volunteered to demonstrate some of our standard military training procedures." Sergeant Parker nodded respectfully to the aliens. He was a man in his 30s with brown hair and calm eyes, the kind of soldier who had seen action but carried himself without boasting. To the Zephyrians, he looked like a walking tank, his muscles clearly defined even beneath his loose uniform. "Pleased to meet you," Parker said, his voice carrying easily across the room. "Colonel Davis tells me you're interested in seeing how we train." Captain Veltar studied the human carefully. "Sergeant Parker, may I ask about your physical specifications, your height, weight, bone density?" Parker looked puzzled but answered, "I'm 5'10", about 180 pounds. Not sure about bone density, but I'm pretty average for a soldier, Doctor." Casilla quickly ran calculations on her pad. "Sergeant, by our measurements, your bone density is approximately 3 times that of an average Zephyrian. Your muscle mass ratio suggests you could lift nearly 4 times your own body weight." "That sounds about right," Parker replied casually. "Standard fitness test requires lifting twice your weight, but most of us can do more if we need to." So, aliens exchanged amazed glances. What this human described as standard fitness would be impossible for even their strongest warriors. "Would you be willing to demonstrate some basic exercises?" Dr. Sullivan asked. "We've set up an observation area where our guests can watch safely." They moved to an adjacent room with large windows overlooking the base's training facility. The Armored Corps Zephyrians settled into chairs in their controlled gravity environment, while the humans prepared the demonstration outside. Sergeant Parker began with what he called a warm-up routine. He dropped to the ground and began doing push-ups, his body rising and falling with mechanical precision. Each repetition required him to lift his entire body weight against Earth's crushing gravity. "This is impossible," whispered Morden. "How is he moving so easily?" Dr. Sullivan explained from beside them. "This is basic conditioning for our soldiers. Sergeant Parker will do about 50 of these to start his daily routine." The Zephyrians watched in stunned silence as Parker completed his push-ups and moved onto pull-ups. He grabbed a metal bar and pulled his entire body upward repeatedly, his muscles working against forces that would crush a Zephyrian instantly. "Dr. Sullivan," Captain Veltar said slowly, "what you are showing us is not basic training. This is a display of superhuman strength." "Not by our standards," Dr. Sullivan replied. "Would you like to see our obstacle course?" The obstacle course was a series of challenges designed to test military fitness. Sergeant Parker approached the first obstacle, a wall 8 feet high. Without hesitation, he ran toward it and leaped upward, grabbing the top edge and pulling his body over in one smooth motion. Dr. Kesaila's instruments beeped frantically as she tried to calculate the forces involved. "The energy required for that jump," she gasped. "In our gravity, he would have needed mechanical assistance." Parker continued through the course, carrying heavy packs, crawling under barriers and climbing ropes. Each movement demonstrated strength that seemed impossible to the watching aliens. What appeared to be routine training to humans looked like superhuman feats to beings from a lighter world. "Now I will demonstrate combat techniques," Parker announced, approaching a practice dummy. The dummy was built to withstand military training, designed to absorb impacts that would injure normal beings. Parker's first punch struck the dummy with a sound like thunder. The heavy bag swung backward from the force, its chains creaking under the impact. He followed with a series of kicks and strikes, each blow delivered with power that made the Zephyrians flinch. "In our military assessment," Captain Veltar said quietly, "we calculated that human warriors would be slow and clumsy due to their heavy build. We assumed their weapons were primitive because they had not developed energy-based systems. Our weapons aren't primitive," Colonel Davis explained. "They're designed for our environment and our capabilities. A weapon that works for us might be too powerful for species from lighter worlds." To demonstrate, Davis showed them a standard military rifle. "This fires a small metal projectile at high speed. The recoil force would knock most beings backward, but humans can fire it accurately while standing." Dr. Kesaila ran more calculations. "The kinetic energy of such a projectile, fired by beings of your strength, would be devastating to most galactic species." Sergeant Parker moved on to the final demonstration, a rescue scenario. A dummy weighing 200 pounds was placed at one end of the course, representing a wounded soldier. Parker's task was to carry it to safety while navigating obstacles. The Zephyrians watched in amazement as Parker lifted the heavy dummy onto his shoulders and began moving through the course. He climbed over barriers, crawled under obstacles, and ran across open ground, all while carrying weight that would be impossible for them to lift even in their home gravity. "This is standard training," Morden asked weakly. "Every soldier is expected to be able to carry a wounded comrade to safety," Colonel Davis confirmed. "It's basic military doctrine." When the demonstration ended, Sergeant Parker approached the observation window, barely breathing hard despite his exertions. "Any questions?" he asked cheerfully. Captain Veltar stood slowly, his understanding of human capabilities completely transformed. "Sergeant Parker, in your military, are you considered exceptionally strong?" Parker laughed. "Not really. I'm pretty average, maybe slightly above. There are plenty of soldiers stronger than me. The implications hit the Zephyrians like a physical blow. If this demonstration of incredible strength was merely average by human standards, then their entire assessment of Earth's military potential was catastrophically wrong." "Dr. Sullivan," Dr. Kesaila said carefully, "how many humans serve in your military forces?" "Currently about 2 million active personnel worldwide, with several million more in reserve," Dr. Sullivan replied. The Zephyrians sat in stunned silence. 2 million beings with the strength they had just witnessed. backed by several million more. Their own military forces, adapted for low-gravity worlds, would be completely outmatched in any direct confrontation. Colonel Davis, Captain Veltar said slowly, "We need to contact our superiors immediately. Our entire first contact protocol is based on assumptions that have proven to be completely incorrect." "Of course," Davis replied. "Though I should mention that what you've seen today represents our peacetime training standards. Our combat veterans and special forces are considerably more capable." As the Zephyrians prepared their urgent communications to the Starweaver, they realized that they had not discovered a primitive species in need of guidance. They had encountered a race of warriors whose casual strength exceeded anything in their experience. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's inhabitants were far more formidable than anyone had imagined. The balance of power in their region of space had just shifted dramatically, and the Zephyrian Confederation would need to completely reconsider their approach to these remarkable and dangerous humans. The communication chamber aboard the Starweaver buzzed with urgent activity as Captain Veltar's report reached the Confederation Council on Zephyr Prime. The massive holographic display showed the faces of 12 council members, their pale features twisted with disbelief and growing concern. Counselor Prime Thexara leaned forward in her chair, her long fingers gripping the armrests. "Captain Veltar, you are asking us to believe that these humans possess military capabilities that exceed our own forces." "Not just exceed, Counselor," Veltar replied from his position in the medical facility on Earth. "Their casual daily activities demonstrate strength levels that our warriors could not achieve with mechanical assistance. We have been observing a species of living weapons, not primitive beings in need of guidance." Dr. Casilla stepped into view of the communication device, her scientific instruments still recording data from their observations. "Counselors, I have confirmed measurements. The average human soldier possesses bone density, muscle mass, and cardiovascular capacity that would be considered superhuman by our standards. Their training exercises involve lifting and carrying weights that would crush our people." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For decades, the Confederation had expanded across the galaxy by offering protection and guidance to developing species. The arrangement worked because Zephyrian technology and physical capabilities usually far exceeded those of newly discovered worlds. "What of their technology?" asked Counselor Mortek, the military advisor. "Surely their advancement remains limited." Captain Veltar gestured to Dr. Sullivan, who had joined them in the communication session. "Dr. Sullivan, would you explain your gravitational manipulation systems?" Dr. Sullivan stepped forward, her small frame appearing even more compact next to the tall aliens. "Our gravity-controlled technology was developed out of necessity," she explained. "When you live in high gravity, you learn to manipulate gravitational fields for practical purposes. We use it for medical treatment, construction, and transportation. The technology they consider basic medical equipment," Dr. Casilla added, "represents gravitational manipulation beyond our current capabilities. They have been working with forces we have barely begun to study." Counselor Prime Thexara exchanged glances with her fellow council members. "Captain, what is your recommendation?" "Immediate reclassification of humanity from client species to peer alliance candidate," Veltar replied without hesitation. "We should withdraw our protectorate offer and instead propose mutual cooperation between equals." The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Never before had the Confederation encountered a species that required such a dramatic revision of first contact protocols. The military implications alone, Counselor Mortek said slowly, would make them valuable allies rather than dependents. A single human soldier appears to possess combat capabilities equivalent to our best warriors. "More than equivalent," Veltar corrected. "Superior, and they have millions of such soldiers." Back on Earth, Ambassador Lisa Carter received the updated communication from the Confederation Council 3 hours later. She sat in the conference room at Edwards Air Force Base, reviewing the dramatic change in the aliens' proposals. Colonel Davis and Dr. Sullivan flanked her, while Captain Jake Morrison participated via video link from the USS Liberty. "They're offering a full military alliance," Carter summarized, reading from the official document. Technology exchange, joint training programs, and mutual defense agreements. This is completely different from their original terms. What changed their minds? Morrison asked from the screen. Colonel Davis smiled slightly. Sergeant Parker's morning workout routine. Dr. Sullivan pulled up her own data on the meeting room display. The Zephyrians have realized that what they interpreted as weakness was actually incredible strength. Their homeworld's gravity is only 1/3 of Earth's. From their perspective, every human is essentially a super soldier. Are we interested in this alliance? Carter asked, though she already knew the answer. Their space travel technology is centuries ahead of ours, Morrison replied. Their energy systems, communication networks, and scientific knowledge could advance human civilization by decades. But now they're offering it as trade between equals, not charity to primitives. A new communication signal arrived from the Star Weaver. Prime Velnus appeared on the screen, but his demeanor was completely different from their first meeting. Gone was the condescending tone and superior attitude. Instead, he spoke with the careful respect reserved for dangerous but valuable allies. Ambassador Carter, Velnus began. The Confederation Council has reviewed our initial assessment of humanity and found it to be incomplete. We would like to propose new terms for cooperation between our peoples. We're listening, Carter replied diplomatically. We offer full technology exchange, including faster-than-light travel, advanced energy systems, and gravitational manipulation techniques. In return, we would appreciate access to human gravitational technology and training methods, as well as the possibility of joint military exercises. Dr. Sullivan leaned forward. What kind of training methods? Your people's natural adaptation to high-gravity environments gives them capabilities we lack, Velnus explained. In conflicts with hostile species, human soldiers could provide tactical advantages that our forces cannot match. Meanwhile, our advanced technology could enhance human capabilities in space-based operations. Colonel Davis considered the proposal. You're talking about humans serving alongside Zephyrian forces? As equals, Velnus emphasized. Joint operations where each species contributes their unique strengths. Your people's physical capabilities combined with our technological advantages would create a formidable alliance. Carter looked around the room at her advisors. What about command structure, resource sharing, colonial rights? All to be negotiated. As equals, Velnus replied. The Confederation acknowledges that humanity represents a peer civilization, not a client species requiring guidance. Dr. Sullivan activated her communicator. Captain Morrison, what's your assessment of their space? Technology? Morrison's voice came through clearly. It's impressive, Amy. Their ships are faster, more efficient, and more advanced than anything we have. But after watching today's demonstrations, I think they're more impressed with us than we are with them. The first joint mission, Velnus, continued, could be a scientific expedition to the Kepler 442 system. There are unexplored worlds there that would benefit from both human durability and Zephyrian technology. Carter made her decision. We're interested in moving forward with alliance negotiations. However, we'll need to involve our respective governments in formal treaty discussions. Agreed, Velnus replied. We are also interested in establishing a joint training facility where our peoples can learn to work together effectively. 6 months later, the USS Horizon departed Earth, orbit with a mixed crew of humans and Zephyrians. Captain Morrison commanded the vessel, a hybrid design that combined human gravitational technology with Zephyrian propulsion systems. Captain Veltar served as science officer, while Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Casilla collaborated on gravitational research projects. In the ship's training bay, Colonel Davis worked alongside Zephyrian warriors in variable gravity chambers, teaching them techniques for high-gravity combat while learning their advanced tactical methods. The Zephyrians wore specially designed exoskeletons that allowed them to function in higher gravity environments, while humans trained in low-gravity scenarios for space operations. It's remarkable how wrong we were, Dr. Casilla said to Dr. Sullivan as they reviewed their joint research data. We thought we were encountering a primitive species when we had actually discovered one of the most physically capable civilizations in the galaxy. Dr. Sullivan smiled as she watched human and Zephyrian crew members working together in the laboratory. Sometimes the best partnerships come from completely different strengths. You have the technology and knowledge, we have the physical capabilities, and gravitational expertise. Together, we can accomplish things neither species could manage alone. The Horizons mission represented more than scientific exploration. It was proof that understanding and respect could bridge the gap between vastly different species, creating alliances based on mutual strength, rather than assumed superiority. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward unexplored worlds, both humans and Zephyrians looked forward to a future where their combined capabilities would open new possibilities across the galaxy. The Confederation had gained powerful allies, and humanity had found their first true partners among the stars.